never had any intention of even really being in the business of music. It's something that sort of found me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Artistically Married, where art and opportunity collide. We're your hosts, Jake Ackerman
and Brianne Steinberg. Yeah, today we have our very special guest, Tony Dekker. He was born and raised in Wainfleet, Ontario, so pretty local. Grew up on a farm. Yep. Yeah, amazing. And attributes a lot of his upbringing to his appreciation now and his connection with the land. He studied literature for 4 years and then graduated with a degree in poetry and prose. True story.
Yep.
Amazing.
English language and literature, poetry and prose.
Not a surprise. After university, spent most of his adult life working in Toronto and obviously building his incredible music career. Tony recently moved back to Niagara with his wife and 2 daughters to embrace his small town roots. In Queenston, he's raising his daughters. Are you still in the Heritage House?
Yeah.
Is this okay, amazing.
Yeah, so that was after. Yeah, I know we had...
Should have fact-checked this before, but I'm killing it. And obviously the most important, he is the front man of the highly acclaimed band, the Great Lakes Swimmers, started in 2003. We are so blessed to have you on the show. We're so excited.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited. Just a quick reminder, guys, if you know a fan of the Great Lakes Swimmers, please, their best currency for us right now is for you guys to pass this on. So don't hesitate to copy and paste and definitely send this to someone that you know is going to enjoy this as much as we are. All right, so I want to dig right into it. I was doing some research on you guys, but can you kind of give us the idea from the birth of Great Lakes Swimmers and how your journey has looked till today?
Yeah, I'll try to put it in a bit of a nutshell.
Okay.
I had all kinds of high school bands that I played in while I went to Lakeshore Catholic in Port Colborne. I grew up in Wainfleet and went away to University of Western Ontario, is where I got my degree from.
Okay.
And from there I moved to Toronto with the intention of actually becoming more of a writer, because I came out of school with a degree in literature and my intention was to, find a parallel sort of career and do that. But I was writing songs too. I'd written all these songs in school, and then when I got out of school, I needed to find a job right away because I had a huge student loan. So I moved to Toronto and found a job working for a film company. And so by day I was working kind of more office admin type stuff for this big film company in Toronto. And by night I was just playing every single hole in the wall in Toronto you could think of.
Wow. And
that was more just for fun and to just play my songs and, but I crossed paths with a lot of really great people and like-minded people. A lot of real encouragement there. Toronto, that was right around the summer of the year 2000 when I moved there. In the early 2000s in Toronto was a really special time because you could see, all these bands were coming up, Broken Social Scene and Arcade Fire and on. All these bands were still just being born, so you could still see them at like Sneaky D's, on College Street. And, and it was really a really special time, and I just happened to land right in the middle of that when the Wavelength music series started there. So I just I spent 2 or 3 years working on the debut album. I was working at the same time, and at one point I kind of just had to take a leap of faith. I released an album, the first Great Lakes Swimmers album, and it seemed to really resonate with people, but it was totally like no intention of doing anything in the music industry. Like there was no grand plan or scheme or anything like that. Like the first I had to borrow some money to make the first pressing of 500 copies, and no barcodes, no distribution, just basically, taking
someone's basement.
Taking them to record stores myself. Wow. Or there was a couple that helped me out. They started, there was an art salon in Toronto called WeWork, where they would basically move all the furniture out of their apartment and then hold these parties where they would have an artist, that would hang their paintings. They would have someone speaking on a topic and then have someone playing some music. And they would do this once a month. They did that for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. They said, well, we'd like to help you out with this music thing. Why don't we just release it through our art thing, as an art piece kind of.
So awesome.
So they were all kind of handmade and hand put together and copied and numbered, and we just I was happy. I didn't think it was going to go beyond my little group of family and friends,
Yeah.
And so it seemed to really resonate with people. We sold through the first pressing. I made another pressing. I talked to someone about maybe doing distribution in Canada. Teenage USA was the, now defunct record label. They offered distribution, but basically the WeWork Art Salon kind of turned into a record label just to kind of keep up with what the band was doing, with what I was doing. So we kind of formed around that. And then within, I think, 6 months, or maybe a year, I gotten in just a random email from someone in Europe saying like, hey, have you ever thought about releasing your records over here and maybe touring over here,
Wow.
Which I thought about for about, 6 seconds.
Yeah.
We're like, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Send me your address. Thank you.
Yeah. So they did. They brought me over. They released the records over there, and then things just started, turning. And it took quite a few years to sort of build a following, I think. And again, it was just sort of following this path that the doors were opening kind of in front of me, and
didn't include social media.
Yeah, it was totally pre-social media.
Yeah,
it was pre all of that. So on one hand, we had very strong print media back then, and it was a centralized media, so it was a little bit easier to kind of get the word out generally.
Yeah, I never would have thought of that.
But now it's kind of like, well, it's a lot easier to get the word out, but it's very decentralized. So it's like it's like a series of echo chambers now,
Yeah, there's just so much.
I've seen such a grand change from starting this in the early 2000s to now being in 2026, over the last 25 years, there's been such a dramatic shift in how music is consumed and listened to and appreciated, and how people hear about things. I mean, it's still online, it's still kind of word of mouth, but
yeah, still people want to like celebrate what they like and like tell their friends about it. But I definitely agree. I think it's like there's an abundance, right? Like there's a lot now, you can access so much now.
Totally, which is amazing. I love having the world of music at my fingertips as a music listener and appreciator, but like as a music maker, it's kind of like, unfortunately, the model is really terrible for us right now.
100%.
Yeah, and with the rising costs of everything, it's really hard to make it all work. But
exactly, I know. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's like a taboo topic because you're like, oh, you're an artist. You do it for the love of the art. It's passionate. But yeah, I think that's like a big theme throughout our podcast, is really talking to people and making people understand the amount of like work that goes into it, and how there is this portion where like we're humans, we need to feed our families, we need to put clothes on ourselves,
For sure. Yeah.
So,
especially now with kids too, I'm kind of realizing how, just with all of the sea changes within the music industry, it's like, and having 2 small children, it's kind of like, and having survived COVID and all of that too, like everything really, it was getting this way before COVID, but COVID just accelerated
Sunk
everything.
The ship.
Yeah.
No.
So.
Yeah, we're going to talk about kind of your different projects that happened in the pandemic and after.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just I wanted to talk. Obviously, the name of the band is Great Lake Swimmers. Your work constantly kind of explores that imagination and really does like a beautiful job of the visuals of water and wilderness, and specifically like, it's wild. I mean, you can listen to the lyrics in here, but you almost don't need the lyrics to hear that like it's Canadian, it's Canadian. And we love that. So yeah, I think just being that like, broad face of being Canadian landscape is so beautiful to us. So can you kind of walk us through what that landscape means to you and how it has such like a big part of your music?
Yeah, I think I can kind of trace it back to just being, to growing up in a rural environment, and especially on a farm. It's one of those things where I watched my parents, my dad in particular, like have to be really in tune with things like, not to oversimplify it, but like weather patterns, weather changes. You have to be very in tune with like how the seasons, like, there's everything moves in cycles and there's a rhythm to everything. And it's kind of like, you just have to be always kind of watching and always kind of mindful in order to sort of do it, successfully and be a little bit pragmatic and very optimistic, about it. And so I also just spent a lot of time in the woods, in just that kind of thing when I was younger. And I think that when I went to then write something that I knew about, that I could feel deep in my bones, like that's what came out, was that kind of affinity for the natural world, that time spent in nature, and that sort of like appreciation for the seasons and the cycles of the earth and all of that, kind of these deeply natural systems that we are a part of, but maybe might be removed from these days.
Yeah, we don't pay as much attention to anymore.
I think it's interesting because, we were talking off air that you were also raised Catholic. So was I. Jacob's dad is a minister. Like, he was raised, super Christian. And it's wild to, like, become an adult and just have that, like, really strong spiritual, like, I'm just so affirmed by it and being in nature. So as much as it's not like I have, anything against my spiritual teachings in terms of institutionalized, but it's wild that, you brought up like just the like psychic nature almost. So you're really being like in tune with what's going on around you, and optimistic that like you have to be okay with it feeling uncomfortable. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes it's torrential downpour and snow and you're trying to farm or crop, right? Like,
totally.
So I think, it is really an easy subject to like bring to light in music.
Well, I think so. Yeah. And I think it's kind of an important one given everything that's happening on the earth right now too. And with the, with climate change and all of that stuff that plays into it a little bit. I've been talking with people about how there's this kind of movement for people who are kind of almost calling for more of a protest in especially kind of folk-based music these days,
Yeah.
And I definitely appreciate and understand that. But I think that my way of doing that, and it always has been for 20 plus years, is sort of like identifying, approaching a kind of a spirituality in the natural world, in nature, and celebrating the beauty of it and what we have left and the reasons why it's important to not only hang on to it, but to have respect for it rather than
angst, anger, fear,
but just rather than sort of like dwelling on the negatives, I guess, and it's really hard to do that in a folk song, to like really to have it resonate without it being demanding or preachy or something like that. I understand the topic, the idea of topical songs, but I also think that there's something deeply timeless about exploring the natural world in music too.
Yeah, and I think it's, like just focusing on that like positive aspect. I love that. I've always been, over the years, been like accused of being like ignorant, right? Like I don't know what's going on, but I think it's my like defense mechanism to like, but like, why don't we talk about all these amazing things? Like, I know it's, there are some things happening that are scary and we should be scared together collectively, arms wrapped around each other, trying to comfort each other instead of just like fear mongering each other worse, right? Like, why are we riling each other up instead of saying like, okay, this is, but like, look over here, like, this is nice,
Totally. Yeah, we need reminders of that. Like, I feel we hear too much of it from all sides these days. So to hear like a pure, heartfelt, loving, warming embrace from something else is it's much better.
It's endearing, and it's sadly like special. It's sadly like, rare.
Yeah.
Why should that be rare? Like, we should be doing more of that, right? So I think it's a really beautiful ode to the environment, if you will.
Yeah. And that's something that can very easily, I think people from all sides of any argument can find some kernel of truth in that too.
Yeah.
Because it's the divisiveness too that's really hurting us right now too, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to like be more together on it, which is important. So you're famous for this. I feel like, was it Joe Lipinski that was talking to us about Tony doing this, maybe? Have you worked with Joe Lipinski?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay,
Joe's a really good friend. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm pretty sure he was telling the story
Yeah.
about it. So
Yeah.
like before we had heard about you years ago when he was telling us this, he said, I had this friend. He's great. He's all about celebrating, recording in like different places and spaces, and kind of how that inspires your music, not just writing, but specifically in recording in these places that really like inspire you and give you this energy. So can you talk about some of the different places that you've recorded your 9 albums?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably go through them. There's only one album that was actually recorded in a proper studio, but the first one was recorded in this old concrete grain silo in Wainfleet, totally off the grid, no electricity. We had to bring in like a generator. It was like a whole thing.
Wow.
And at one point it was just picking up so much of the sounds around us, like the wind and just environmental sounds. Where it might be raining one day, it might be a little bit windy. We were at the end of the summer one year, the crickets came out and we could really hear that kind of hum, and it was like, okay, what do we do here? Do we try to filter this out, or do we kind of go the other way and just kind of lean into that?
Yeah.
So we did that.
Amazing.
And so you can really hear that on the first record. It's almost sounds like it's like could be tape hiss or something, but it's a really hi-fi recording of a place.
Oh
you know,
my gosh.
sometimes people mistake that for like a lo-fi recording.
Yeah.
It's like, I admit that I had no idea what I was doing, and it was just me and a friend that were out there in the middle of nowhere in the boonies recording something. But we really, there was like 8 microphones running at a time, like all strung up through the silo, and like
Wow.
it was an intense way to do things.
Yeah.
Especially with no power, so we'd work into the night, and then what do we do for lights? We'd get these lamps and put them everywhere, and it was like, it was a pretty magical.
This
like
is an HBO movie. Did you video this?
We didn't.
Oh,
yeah. There's some photos, but yeah, we didn't really. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
But spaces like that was a real space out in nature on this abandoned farm, basically. There were a few structures that were still standing, and one of them was this concrete grain silo.
Wow.
And the idea was to use the acoustics of this structure, right? And it sounded amazing in there. But we also picked up so much more than that. We picked up the environment, you know, we picked up the real fingerprint of the space that we were in. But I love that. I love the next one was recorded in a church also in Waynfleet, St. Teresa's Church out in Long Beach, which is not there anymore, sadly. But, you know, places like that I find are just charged with a real energy, spaces where people go to celebrate the extremes of their life, you know, happy, joyous occasions like weddings and that kind of thing, and also funerals and that kind of like deeply emotional thing. So there's almost like an imprint, you know, or like there's this resonance kind of in places like that. You can kind of, you know, I think there's kind of something to that, not to get too, you know.
I totally agree. For some, you walk into a church, you have this feeling you need to be silent. And I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
You're just listening.
Yeah. Well, really, yeah, I tend to agree. And especially like when you're doing like a recording project, for example, it just sort of like, it adds that element of reverence to the process, you know? So you're kind of like, you're in a special space, you're doing a special thing. And it's like, you can't fake that either. It's like, you can't just like, you can't fix that in the mix, you know what I mean? Like you kind of get what you get, you know, which I love because it's real, you know.
Totally.
The other thing is that spaces like that, we really treat them as like another instrument, you know, of the band, almost like another band member, and it leaves a real signature on like the sound of the recording. And aside from the process, and you know, that the process itself, I think, draws a certain kind of performance out of the musicians. And out of me as a singer in a space like that, I really feel like I sing differently in a different kind of space, because it's like, it just draws that performance out of you in a way. Another kind of aspect of that sort of like reverential, you know, kind of feeling in a place like that, I think it draws a really nice performance out of the people that are playing in there together. But it also adds another sort of sonic layer to the recording too. And it's one of those things that maybe you can't quite put your finger on, but it's like, there's more information in that sound somehow. And it's like, where is that? Why does this sound? Why is it making me feel this way? I can't quite figure it out, you know? And for me, I feel I'll spend my entire career trying to tap into that, you know, and figure that out, because it's just so fascinating to me personally. And it's such a big part of the process that I just want to figure it out. And with each new project, it's exciting to try to figure it out.
So cool.
I was wondering, like, looking at your tour, like, just how stacked it is. I was like, I think he just wants to get in more buildings.
It's true. I'm always
You're just
keeping
excited
an eye out.
you want to like sing in all these different places, right? You're like,
absolutely.
Let's see what this building feels like.
There's a few churches on the tour, actually. So but churches, old halls. We did a whole bunch of stuff in the Thousand Islands for our 4th album, in different buildings. There was this. It's almost like you can't make this up. There's these castles that were built in the turn of the century, you know.
Where is it? Thousand Islands?
Yeah.
Like near Gatineau?
Oh, yeah.
No, near...
like Georgia Bay?
Like Ananakwe.
Oh.
Like on the St. Lawrence.
Oh, okay, yes.
So like the
Didn't
end
we
of
pass that? It was like on the way to Montreal, like out to Kingston? Yeah, okay.
Kingston's kind of like the end of the line, because Kingston has Wolf Island, and that's kind of the biggest island. But there's a lot of people really don't know about it, but there's hundreds of beautiful islands all in the St. Lawrence between, starting at east of Port Hope and west of Kingston in there, near Gananoque, really. Rockport is another place. Brockville, if you know where Brockville is, that's kind of right in the center of it. And so we were able to get into some of these buildings and just kind of made a little document of this place in a weird way.
So cool.
It was super inspired by the natural themes and the aquatic themes, and the St. Lawrence is just a mighty water artery, for our country, all of the forests of all of the Great Lakes are all emptying out into the St. Lawrence. And it's such an important waterway.
The divider of the salt and the fresh.
Yeah, totally. So
Crazy.
That's where the Great Lakes meet the ocean is not too far from there. So yeah, it's things like that. I love the history of Canada. I love the historical aspects of it. I like delving into that. As we know, Canada is much older than 150 years old. And I'm endlessly curious about Canada's deep history too. Canada's First Nations history, and a lot of that is tied into these really special natural places too. So that's something that I try to delve into a little bit, and just for my own curiosity and for my own love of the place,
Yeah.
But just talking about different locations we've recorded in, these types of places have been pretty important.
Do you walk into them and you're like, I gotta record here, or
certain
it's just
things,
Okay.
Certain ones definitely, yeah. I was really excited to record in the Aeolian Hall in London. We recorded our third album there. Most recently, we did some recording in St. Mark's in Niagara-on-the-Lake with Joe.
Okay.
Which was really super cool. The Oddfellows Hall in St. Catharines was a pretty wild
That's
room.
the one he was talking about. Yeah. The Oddfellows Hall. Yeah. We performed there through In the Soil, I think. It's a cool place.
Yeah, totally.
I like that place.
So yeah, like Joe, it was really nice connecting with Joe because he's really into location recording and I'm really into location recording. So we were introduced through our mutual friend Adam Volek, who's a videographer and who I also did some work with, and he was actually my neighbor in Queenston.
Oh, amazing.
So yeah, and we turned out we knew a lot of the same people, and we started talking about music and art and photography and videography. And he's an amazing cinematographer and videographer.
Was he helping you with the music videos? You have an abundance of music videos. They're so good.
He did all the music videos for the Uncertain Country album in 2023. So there's one with all the weird canoe stuff that's kind of swirling on it with the 360 camera.
Yeah.
That was totally his brainchild. Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah. So.
I wanted to actually kind of talk about that. I mean, we already had touched on what your experience was during the pandemic, how that really impacts velocity with an art project, right? I mean, when you can't go out and perform as being a big central part of your art, it ends up being painful, but out of that birthed Uncertain Country.
Yeah.
So I was curious kind of how that looked in terms of how you were able to transfer some of that energy into, this project and it being a 3-year project. I know I heard you worked with Minuscule, which is also... Oh my gosh, amazing, right?
Yeah, they're so amazing. That was such a great thing. Yeah, so the whole story goes is that so Joe and Adam and I took a trip to the North Shore of Lake Superior to kind of do some recording and writing and a little bit of reconnaissance, take some video work. That was kind of the start of the project, and that was in the summer of 2019 with the intention of going back and kind of using that part of the province as the sort of the backdrop for that recording. But then when COVID happened and everything locked down, it was kind of I had to switch gears pretty quickly, and it didn't make sense to travel out there anymore. I mean, Thunder Bay is really far away.
Yep.
As you guys probably know, it takes 24 hours to get there from here. So So it just didn't really make sense to go back, and things were very uncertain during that whole time period. And so I switched gears and I kept things super local. So Joe and I just picked away at it. When we were allowed to have socially distanced recording sessions, we would go to the Oddfellows, or we did some recording at Balls Falls actually, in some of their historic buildings. They have a beautiful chapel there. That's just a giant wooden, beautifully designed historic chapel. And we did some recording there the next summer, but everything stayed local. Almost everyone that worked on the album was in the Niagara region. Adam did a lot of the video work. And there were a couple songs where I said to Joe, like, I've got this idea for like a choir on a couple of these songs, like, you know, I'm not sure how that could take shape, but what do you think? And he's like, he was kind of like, I know exactly what to call and so he got Minuscule involved, and Laurel Minus and her gang, and I have to say it was just such a great experience working with Laurel on it, because she's just such a brilliant writer. She arranges for choral groups, you know, for her choir, and brought everyone out for a couple days, and we recorded the tracks actually in that chapel in Balls Falls. So it was
amazing.
Yeah. So
she has like the most wonderful things to say about you. She was like,
"Oh, that's amazing!
He's such a great mentor. He brought us on tour in like 2023. Yeah, that was like such a big break for her. Like she said it was unbelievable. She also asked us to ask you about the story in Charlottetown with fireworks. She wouldn't even tell me it. I was like, what? She's like, you just ask Tony, see what he says. I'm like, tell me.
Yeah. So we were en route to, we had a show in Ottawa, I think, and then our van broke down, and our drummer was meeting us in Charlottetown, because that was like, I think, our next stop. It was a couple more days to get there, but the van had to stay behind, and some of the band members stayed behind while the van was getting fixed.
Oh my God.
I caught a cheap flight, and a one-way flight in Ottawa to get to Prince Edward Island to Charlottetown, because Laurel and some of the Minuscule people were meeting us there as well for that show. So I was like, well, I can't, like, how are we going to do this? So my drummer's going to be there, Laurel's going to be there, Taylor's going to be there, you know, like her folks are going to be there. So, and we didn't want to keep the show. I think it was a sold out show at the Trailside in Charlottetown and Prince Edward Island.
Gosh.
So we came up with a plan. It was kind of like, all right, the band was going to stay with the van and drive out. They were going to try to get there if they could, but it was like looking unlikely that they were going to make it to the Charlottetown show. So I went ahead and met my drummer there, and Laurel was there. So we kind of like put together a show with the three of us, with myself and my drummer and Laurel.
My God.
But like I could only take one guitar with me. I didn't have all of my gear with me because I couldn't fly with all of my gear.
Oh yeah.
So I've got that was the album that I was doing all these alternate tunings on.
Oh yeah.
So it, like, I had to retune often between songs, and there was like this dead space, and it was just the three of us. So but our regular drummer, we have a couple different drummers that come in and out of the mix, but our drummer at the time was Ryan Granville Martin, and he's pretty quick on his feet. I would say he's pretty, like, if I need to kind of like, if there's dead space, I kind of just throw it to him, because I'm not good at like the comedy on stage, you know, like some people are really good with that.
Yeah, they got their bits, sound
and
bites.
I'm not so good at that, but like Ryan's pretty good at it. So I just kind of was like, hey Ryan, you know, tell us a story, you know, while I'm tuning the guitar. So then him and Laurel started having this back and forth, and it just started getting more and more like absurd. And by the end of it, they were just like, they had this skit going on stage, and I'm just sitting there because I'm done tuning by this point.
You're like, I'm not gonna cut them off. This is great.
And it was just hilarious, but it was like totally, everyone was just kind of put on the spot by the situation, you know. But we had such great feedback afterwards. They're like, well, you know, you don't really need the full band, you guys were awesome. Like, we were a 5-piece band, and we were doing it as just a 2-piece plus Laurel, you know.
Right.
And we had kind of thought like the choir hadn't joined her for that show, but they were meeting us in Halifax or something. There was so many moving parts. Actually, it's just kind of amazing it happened at all. But, but the rest of her gang showed up, I think, in Halifax, or maybe St. John or something like that. But we did a whole Eastern tour, and when I got to talking to Laurel too, I realized, you know, how long she's been doing this and how amazing it is. She's such a great writer. She has such a great project and is just such an enthusiastic person. I thought, like, how can I help, you know? And she wasn't really sure how to, you know, I don't really know what I need. I don't really know, you know. And I was like, well, come on the road with us, you know, just get an idea of, you know, let me show you the ropes, like, you know. And that ended up being, I think, a really good thing, just to kind of see a bit more of the country, kind of get out there, get out of your comfort zone, you know, because people kind of get a little bit sort of comfortable in their towns and their cities, and it's hard to sort of see beyond that. So I'm glad that she said that it helped, because she's a real talent, and
I know.
she's just a brilliant writer and arranger and all of the things. So
So yeah,
try to help when I can.
Yeah, no, she spoke so highly. She was just thrilled for the opportunity. So you were kind of talking about, you know, the rotation of your band, and I feel like, you know, you've always been a constant, and we've talked to a lot of artists in this situation where, you know, they were the glue holding everything together, and then they kind of I feel like similar to you get into that role and like you embrace it. You start becoming, you know, the leader you were meant to be, and you get more comfortable with artists, you know, tornadoing around you and being able to like bring people in and out. And I think it's really powerful being able to like get people together to collaborate on stuff, not just performers, players, but also, you know, recording teams or, you know, different people that are revolving around your music. So how do you navigate that? How have you grown into it? And how are you kind of like embracing it now?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we have a bit of a revolving cast of players, and it's always kind of been like that from the very first album. Like if I would have tried to kind of keep the band together from the first album, it would have been over after one album.
Yeah.
But the way I've always kind of seen it is that Great Lake Swimmers is more or less a singer-songwriter project. It's a vehicle for my songs, and different people come in and out of the mix to support it. It's been pretty much a different band on every album, I think, over the years, like the live band and the performing band. And people come in and out of the mix for different reasons. And sometimes people want to go on to focus on their own music. You know, we've had people kind of like, which I totally respect, you know, if people want to take a step back and focus on their own songs or their own projects. And people have different things going on. A lot of people are involved with a bunch of different bands. People have left to start families, you know what I mean? Like over the years. So it's like, and it's not an easy life either. I mean, some people just aren't cut out for it either. Like it really takes a well-balanced personality, I think, to kind of handle the ups and downs of the road, you know, in quotation marks. So there's that,
and a
too.
Great partner that's, you know,
handling
their partner being right. Like you have to be in a great partnership. That's like
a huge part of it.
Yeah.
It really is. I can't stress that enough. I mean, my wife traveled with different bands for a while too, like working for different bands. So she had kind of had a little bit of an insider, kind of like she knows the deal. You know what I mean? Yeah. And when we were first married, she came everywhere with the band before we had kids. You know, and that ended pretty quickly once we had kids.
Yeah. It's just not realistic.
It's not realistic. Not realistic. That would have been probably not a great experience for everyone involved. You know. Yeah. But she gets it, I think. And so that's really important to have that support. And also for anyone that kind of comes into that sort of situation too, everyone has to kind of be on the same page, you know, or it kind of doesn't work. So, but yeah, it's been a rotating cast. There's been some people that have come in and out of the mix, people that I've reconnected with after many years that have, you know, and also people that have just been in the project for now 10 or 15 years too. So, but the main thing that I wanted to do, there was two reasons why we've been playing as a trio. And one was because in 2023 was our 20th anniversary of the first album. Wow. So we we were starting to put together, Joe and I actually were putting together a kind of a retrospective album, which was kind of like a reimagining, an acoustic reimagining of some of the tracks from each of the albums.
Like a greatest hits?
Kind of, yeah, but it was like kind of like an acoustic greatest hits. So it was like, yeah, so it was
what
like...
do you mean? You could have an acoustic greatest hits?
Well, it was like it was more of, I like to think of it more as a retrospective.
Yeah.
So
yours sounds better.
Yeah. I don't know. Greatest hits just sounds like it doesn't sound accurate. Actually, it was going to be, it should be greatest misses if it was going to be anything.
Greatest accidents, happy accidents.
Totally. Yeah. Hits sounds a little too. It doesn't sound accurate.
Eagles
to me.
Sounds like the Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah, so that didn't feel right, but we thought like I'll re-record some of these with a little bit of piano, a little bit of acoustic guitar, a little bit of cello, and kind of like just pick 2 songs from each of the 8 albums at that point. I also had done a solo album at one point, and we happened to have some really nice live tracks from In the Soil from 20. Gosh, what year was that? 22 or 23? Cool. We did an In the Soil set at the Silver Spire in St. Catharines. And we recorded all of that. Joe recorded it, actually. We got some really nice tracks, and we recorded 4 live tracks, and 2 of them were with Minuscule. The whole choir singing backups in a live setting. So it turned out really, really nice. And there was also just happened to be 2 songs from that solo album from 2013. So it was like kind of extra. It filled up the last side of the double vinyl kind of thing. You know?
Cool.
So 20 songs for 20 years, and we called it a day. But we toured that as a 3-piece. And Colleen Brown had kind of come into the mix, who's a great singer-songwriter from Edmonton. And the trio kind of version just went really well. So I thought we got to keep this going. So economically, it makes a lot of sense. It's a little bit easier to be a little bit more nimble as a band, you know, and pivot a little bit easier with a 3-piece rather than the 5-piece plus crew and all of that. And so it's kind of like we've kind of taken it down a little bit. And I think it's allowed the songs to really open up in a nice way too, to be honest. The live show is a lot more, it breathes a lot more, and it feels a lot more open, and it feels a lot more very song oriented than having the full 5-piece band that we had been doing for years and years and years. Good. So so I've really been enjoying touring as the trio. So that's what we've been kind of doing.
Cool.
For this new stuff, my good friend Marshall Bureau has stepped into the drum role on this next series of dates. So I've been good friends with Marshall for a bunch of years. He played on Uncertain Country, actually played all the drums on that record.
Oh, amazing.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really fun to see singer-songwriters be able to, you know, to go through seasons, right? To have like, you know, this was for this time and this is for this time. And it's amazing to not have that like, you know, definitive, like it has to be like this, you know, being flexible like that. Like, I think it does bring in this element of like being able to work with other people. Like,
it's nice.
It's a long 20-year run of a band to be just the same people all the time.
Totally. Yeah. And you know, and like I said, sometimes things just don't work out for certain reasons, or people just have to go in a different direction for different reasons. Mostly it's been pretty good, I think.
Amicable.
Pretty amicable. Yeah. And I have the most amount of respect when someone wants to try their own hand at their own project or writing their own songs and going out into the world with that. And I can't have more respect for that, because I just really think that that's a really great reason to want to go off and do your own thing. So
I think that makes you like such a good leader when you're able to like look at the people around you and genuinely care about their well-being, right? Like that's what makes a great leader, is being able to be excited for what they're working on, even if it doesn't include you.
For sure. Yeah. And it feels like family to me, you know, and that's how I look at it. And that's how I try to treat it, as if they're family members, you know, because they are, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess if it's interchangeable, then it would almost feel like dependence if it's always the same people all the time, right?
Well, yeah, we're not the Ramones, although the Ramones did have different people in their lineup. But it's not like what's the big grand example? The Beatles, you know what I mean? Or whatever. So it's not like 4 people against the world or 5 people against the world. It's just a really fluid mix of just good-natured people that kind of come in and out of the mix, I think. So, and that keeps things fresh too. I love it when people add their own mark and their own stamp onto the songs. And I love singing harmonies. We've been doing 3-part harmonies, and it's just, I love that aspect of it. So yeah, it's kind of a songwriter project. I could have just used my own name, but I kind of had ideas of it being a band at one point too. And it's also just takes a little bit of the heat off of me.
Yeah. I mean, when you're going to see the live show, it's a band, right? When you're watching a music video, it's a band. Like, you always have players around you. So I think, it's a really cool way to run a band, really. Like, it's refreshing.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. It comes with its own set of challenges too.
For sure.
It's hard to kind of line up schedules, and there's a lot going on. And it's hard to kind of like lose someone because they're going on to do something else. So, you know.
And I kind of like picture it like I own a dance studio. So like for me to have to retrain someone every single time they come in is like a lot of work on me. And like, so I just imagine, I think you've cornered it by being really selective about people that are just so talented. Like, so talented, you don't have to tell them twice. You can like show them something and they can just like, you know, come and bring it.
Yeah, for sure. There is a learning curve for sure. You know, like you said, and it does require some work, but it is nice to be surrounded by really talented people that you also respect and admire. So I'm curious how, because I feel like every artist kind of has the, like, your artists will say like, I'm my own worst critic, I have all this pressure on myself, you know. So an artist always like has whatever the goal is. It can change on a daily basis or monthly, but I'm curious for you, and I feel the same way about my studio because I'm watching a project over 20 years.
I'm curious how your mentality has changed from when you first started the project, what success, like what your goals looked like versus, you know, now at this season of your life, what success looks like, what your goals look like for your band or maybe just for your life.
Yeah, that's a good question because it's really hard, I think, to like success, I think, is a little bit of a loaded word, you know. It's like happiness.
Right. Yeah. That's why I said it could change in a day.
Yeah, for sure. So it really, and it depends on a lot of things. For me, like the definition of it was just being able to make a living, being able to pay my rent or now pay my mortgage and being able to now feed my family, you know, but just being able to eat and pay rent, you know, was kind of like how it started. I thought like if I could just make, I never had any designs to be a big star or to be a big, you know, to be like famous or to be sort of like, you know, to do something in the industry. Like I find the industry is really the hard part of the whole thing. Yeah. So I never had any intention of even really being in the business of music. It's something that sort of found me. But I thought like if I can just earn a decent living, not be the biggest person in the world, but make a decent living and work hard at it and hone my craft, I would be happy with that. And I am, and I still am. Yeah. So that's the end goal, I think, is just to make an honest living. Yeah. So
such a farmer.
Yeah, I know. It really does. Like, it's true. It informs it. Like, it's like, I think about like the seasons and the cycles. It's kind of like these things, the tides coming in and out. It's like that totally happens with music because, you know, there's no accounting for taste either. And it's like, why did this record do okay and this one, you know, didn't do as good? Or why would this one be nominated for the Juno and this one, you know, like people didn't really seem to care much for that one. But it's just kind of like, you know, these things go up and down and there's these cycles to it. And it's like, it's really like, I remember with growing up and my parents having a bad year of crops, you know what I mean? Or something that the factors that maybe aren't within your control, and you put in your best effort and you put in all of your good intentions and you do the work and you put your head down and you know, but it doesn't always, you know, it doesn't always work out that way. So, and it takes a little bit of stubbornness and it takes a little bit of tenacity, I think, to hang in there, and you have to love it, you know, and you have to maintain that. I don't know. I don't know what vision there is to maintain in either farming or music, but you have to hang in there, you know. You have to.
Yeah, I think it's just like just very like calming. I was listening to like Rocky Spine over and over and over again. And I'm like, I want this on like I want to input this soundtrack on like every contemplative major walk I've ever went on, you know. It's just this like track that's like calming, and I think the explanation you're giving of just being like comfortable and stable and confident in that flux, right? That like up and down, and not let yourself go crazy about it. Yeah. Because it's part of, I mean, it's really part of life.
We touched on COVID too, but like COVID really like took the wind out of our sails too. It's like after COVID, it's like we were starting over, and like Joe and I had been working on that album for literally 3 years, and it was like we were just picking away at it, and then it kind of came time to finally release it, but it just doesn't, you need to build up to that again. It doesn't just, you can't just drop it and go. It's kind of like, you know, it takes 6 months to plan a tour properly. It takes at least 6 months to plan an album release properly, and to kind of do it in a way that's going to be effective to sort of roll it out. And the advice that I got from my team that I work with was just like, wait until it's, because people are canceling tours, people are getting sick and getting stuck and having to quarantine and weird places across the country and overseas, all these places, and having to cancel. And it was just kind of like, they were just like, just wait, you know. So I didn't really go back to work until the beginning of 2023. And that was just dipping our toes in the water again, you know. Like we did some stuff in the US. We got a great offer to go play at the, what are they calling it now? Well, anyway, it was the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Yeah, which we did. This was before all of the current drama. So yeah, this was in 2023. That was in the first sort of like batch of shows that we had done, like the first real tour that we had kind of done in the Northeast, coming back after COVID. But it really took a while to it really felt like we were starting over because we just lost all that momentum. And even with putting a new album out, it was just really hard to just sort of get everything moving again. So it really took years. Even now, I still feel the effects of it, and it's 6 years now from lockdown, right?
Yeah.
From the first lockdown, so it was really tough.
Yeah.
And having 2 small children and trying to figure out what we're doing. And
oh my gosh.
It was wild.
What do the girls think about your music?
I think they're sort of coming online to it a little bit more. You know, I think they're starting to realize that it's kind of like when I'm away for stretches of time too. That's like a little not super normal. But they're enthusiastic about it. We play a little bit at home, not a whole lot, but they're very musical, and they're taking their piano lessons and all of that. So yeah.
So awesome. And I'm like, my dad's famous.
Yeah, they're coming online a little bit with it.
Amazing. How old are they?
They're 11 and 7 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're getting up there.
Yeah.
Ooh, teenage girls.
Right around the corner, I know.
Let me tell you, from owning a dance studio.
Yeah. Ours are 6 and 10. There you go.
Yeah, with 2 girls.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
For sure.
It's going to be magical.
Yeah. I know I got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, it's going to be so good. All right. I think that's a good time for a break.
Sure.
Yeah. We'll take a break. And do you have a song in mind?
Yeah.
Yes. What song are you going to play?
I don't know. I was thinking that maybe I might play one we've been playing a lot from the new album that we've been playing a lot lately is One More Dance Around the Sun.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Amazing.
That was like the first single, and that one kind of just people really responded to that one. So
yeah, it's a great album.
How was that album recorded?
That one was recorded at a place called the Ganaraska Recording Company. That's a studio that Jim Boskill runs out his operation out of that place. And it's way out in the middle of nowhere, just outside of Port Hope.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's an old century plus old farmhouse.
Nice.
We can get into it. But
yeah we'll talk about it after the break.
Okay, let's take a break.
I was working out to that this morning. I'm wondering, I'm like, does anyone think I'm just like, pumping iron? I'm like, this is so relaxing.
Nice.
That was so good. Amazing. So yeah, that's off your latest album again. Like I mentioned, it's the 9th album. I can't believe you have 9 albums, Caught Light. It's so incredible. It came out in 2025. So just before the break, you were kind of telling us about, again, another really amazing experience in terms of like the recording process. You said you were working with
Jim Boskill.
Okay, yeah. I was just reading, and someone from the Bahamas, I think, right? The player from the Bahamas.
Yeah, well, Darcy, before he played Darcy Yates,
right.
before he started playing in Bahamas, he played in our band for a bunch of years.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
And he recently moved to the Niagara region from north of Toronto.
Okay.
And got back in touch because he was like, hey, I'm going to be in the Niagara region. He moved to Fort Erie.
Amazing.
And so he's like, we should hang out. And I was like, that'd be great. So, and every once in a while I call him for gigs still too. When we can't get a bass player, he subs in on bass sometimes.
Right.
And we were just talking about like, kind of shooting the breeze a little bit about music. And he's like, he kind of made this offhanded comment one time we were hanging out, and he's like, Great Lake Swimmer should make like kind of like a 70s folk record, Yeah. He's like, I could really see that, just kind of tapping into some of that like folk rock, kind of some of those sounds, more than anything.
Yeah.
And I kind of laughed it off at first, but then the next time I saw him, I had been chewing on it for a while, and I was kind of like, Darcy, you might be onto something. I was like,
amazing.
And I was like, I know that he does produce some albums too. And I was like, if you were going to make that album, how would you do it? And he's like, well,
pull up a seat.
Yeah, he's like, but he wasn't even pull up a seat. It was like, here's who I would call. He's like, you should record with Jim Boskill at his studio. He's amazing. He plays every instrument. He can play anything with strings on it. You should get him to play on it. Yeah. You should get Gary Craig to play drums. I know this guy Steve O'Connor plays keys. I can play bass. You bring the songs. We'll all record it at Ganaraska. It's this crazy old farmhouse in the middle of nowhere that's completely wired up for sound. So every room has like a different sort of a feel to it. There's one room where there's the main live room where there's drums and a giant, beautiful piano, baby grand piano, and a classic Hammond, a B3, and a Wurlitzer, and the different isolation rooms for different percussions. I was playing in the control room, and Jim would hit record and then play some pedal steel or some mandolin or something, and sang a lot of the backups. And we literally did it in 3 days. So the record previous, Uncertain Country, took 3 years during the pandemic. Yeah. And this was the complete opposite. I wanted to get it we did 2 days and a day of overdubs, and then we did an additional extra day and an additional day of overdubs. So the whole thing was recorded really in 5 days. Yeah.
It's insane. I mean, my, of course, first question that comes to mind is how?
Yeah.
But I think a more important question is why?
Yeah. Well, I think it was a reaction to taking so long to recording the previous album. I wanted to just do something completely different.
Okay.
And I really wanted to get in that sort of vein of like a 70s folk rock record. So Darcy, and I had to put a lot of just faith and trust in Darcy because he called in all the players. But I trust him innately, though. I mean, I think he's a brilliant musician, but he's also a really great producer. And so I just kind of put this song, like I just put my faith that he brought in the people. He was like, this is going to be great, but we were going to accept everything sort of warts and all,
Yeah.
Which we did. So, I mean, we did maybe 3 takes of each song, but most of them we got on the first or second take.
Amazing.
Like we'd run it with a band once. So I think the first day we did we got like 4 or 5 songs done even just in the first day. So.
And again, I think that comes back to those like seasoned players, right?
Yeah, highly skilled players.
Yeah.
Like I can't say enough about Gary Craig, for example. I hadn't met him before. I was familiar with his playing, but I hadn't met him or worked with him before. He's been a classic singer-songwriter, drummer for many decades. He was Bruce Coburn's drummer. Drummed for Anne Murray at a certain point. Just he was there in the 70s.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was really great to have someone of that sort of stature in the session group, for the recording. It was over in a flash, but I just feel like we captured a little bit of that, lightning in a bottle, as they kind of say, like we just managed to get something. There was a really great spark. The first night we were there, when we got, I think it was the first 4 songs in the album, there was a lunar eclipse that night, which we didn't know about. There was a blood moon. There was a full lunar eclipse, which we didn't find out about until after, and was kind of like,
you're like, that's why that happened. It's like,
how did this all go so well? Like, how was there this crazy, amazing energy
chemistry,
and everyone, we went late into the night, but it was like we all just, everyone kind of really dug their heels in, and I was prepared too. Like, I had spent a lot of time working on the songs, but I mean, really, that group of people with Darcy at the head of it just really brought it to a whole other level. And seeing Jimmy Boskill work up close too, I'd known of him for many, many years too. He's a younger guy, younger than me, but he's just a brilliant, amazing guitar player, pedal steel player, mandolin player. At one point, he just hopped up on upright bass. Darcy was kind of like, "Hey, Jim, do you mind? We're thinking about upright bass for this one, but my chops aren't up right now." He's like, "Yep." He's like, "Give me a sec." He literally just planted it down and hit record and did it in one take, and it was just like, "This is amazing."
Wow. That's insane.
Like, as an overdub, So
wow.
Yeah, he just brought a lot of like just many years of skillful playing to the whole thing too, which was incredible.
Yeah. The whole album is incredible. It's so good. There was 2 songs that like specifically kind of stood out to me. The first one was Wrong, Wrong, Wrong. And I think it comes back to that, there's some like heavy emotional anguish in that song. Like that song, I think it just resonated with me so much. I tend to be the optimist. I tend to be the one that's just, like happy all the time. But I'm also so empathic where I feel these feelings from people, and I'm just so hurt and sad and scared for people that I just, so I think that song really resonated to me. And I think it's a really important song for people to hear when they are going through those moments. I'm usually the person that's like, the lifeboat trying to like pull people out. So I think it really shows both sides. It's speaking to the person who's suffering, but it's also from like the perspective of somebody watching, right? And trying to like lend a helping hand and try to heal.
Yeah. Something I never thought about that song is that it's good to talk about things too, especially as dudes, we kind of tend to keep a lot of stuff inside. And that's another thing that I've kind of learned through, just being a little bit more present and being in close proximity to people for extended periods of time, that it's really important to talk about stuff. We don't do it enough, and it's really important. So I think that was kind of playing into that.
Yeah, just like having the comfort to reach out.
Yeah.
And I really think like it's nice as we talk a lot about this with artists specifically, that they kind of have that ability to capture their own feelings and be able to cathartically, express them if they're feeling something, but also, to the audience, it's speaking to them and being able to like do a lot of healing for like somebody who's hearing the song. So I think it's a really powerful topic to like put into an album like this, which is, otherwise so optimistic, so, brilliant, so fun. And then, you have this like really honest truth, like speaking truth about the fact that we are going through these feelings. We need to talk about it.
It is a little bit disguised in this song that kind of moves along at a little bit of a clip, and the pedal steel and all of that's in there. So it's kind of like, it kind of feels like maybe it might be more of an positive or upbeat song than it actually is once you kind of start taking the lyrics apart, for sure.
Yeah, totally.
But I also like the idea of like using the audience as the friend that you're telling this to. It's like it's like this larger, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, yeah, it is a communication and connection with you and the audience. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then the other song that I thought was interesting, it was like the Running Out of Time. I started listening to it and I was laughing because I had read the fact that you guys had recorded this in 5 days, and I was like, was this like an add-on on the song, like we're running out of time, guys, let's go. But then I actually listened to it, and I think it was like almost one of the only sort of political showcasing the fact that like things are happening. And we really do have to do something about it. We have to step up, and we have to like step into our power, whatever that looks like as a collective, and do some healing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the most overt that I've ever been in songwriting about that particular kind of topic, about that kind of thing. So it's, there's lots of ways to kind of look at that one, but that one for sure. In 2012, I teamed up with the World Wildlife Fund, and we did a campaign for the Great Bear Rainforest in northern British Columbia. They really did a campaign. They've done clean water campaigns too, and it's kind of like we are at the boiling point now. There's no real question about it. And it's just, gosh, I watched this movie not that long ago where it was kind of like, I think it was called like not to get off on a tangent here, but it's called like The Life of Chuck. Have you heard about this movie?
No.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's like the first 20 minutes are kind of like, to me, it was like so horrifying because it was like kind of like leading up to like an apocalyptic scenario, but everyone was just so kind of laissez-faire about it. They're like, oh man, the internet's down again. The internet's acting weird and the power's going out, and oh man, I can't believe I just can't get online. And it's just kind of like, and the infrastructure is falling apart, and you can kind of see society is breaking down.
Yeah.
And like the grid collapses, and everyone's just like, oh man, the lights are out again.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't charge my phone. I've only got like 2 bars or something like that. And they're just like, and they're just kind of like, they're just more concerned about like
things that don't matter.
Yeah, and like the world's literally falling down around them, and they're just kind of like, oh man,
Yeah, it's funny, we talk about
that's how it's going to happen,
Yeah,
because it's
all of a sudden the power's going to go out.
Like all of a sudden, something catastrophic is going to happen, and it's just like there have been those of us that have just been shouting at the top of our voices, about this kind of thing for many, many years, and my voice not even being among the loudest of them, but in my own way, trying to kind of get that across, that we're reaching the boiling point, and we're going to boil over soon, and like, come on, let's do something about this. But it's hard because we're all part of the problem too, so it's just it's such a weird human condition and problem that we're going through right now, because I drive a car, we go on tour, have to take a flight somewhere, we do this.
I go to the grocery store. I don't grow my own food.
Store.
Yeah.
On one side of it, I tell myself, like, if going around places and playing our little songs are going to help make the world better, or get people in tune with certain ideas and concepts and emotions in a certain way that helps things even just a little bit, considering all of the chaos and hardship that's going on in the world right now, then maybe, I'll do what I can to help in that way. And maybe that's my role.
Totally. Yeah. That's like all artists' role, right? Is to like create. And I think we've had a lot of guests on that are in the tech world, and they're all pointing to the same thing: emotional intelligence. Like, you have to get into like the most human part of you, which is the art, the passion. Like, you have to create, because you're creating for yourself, and you're giving this beautiful gift to the people in the world around you, which is awesome.
Yeah. So there's that. That definitely was like part of that song for sure. And then but it was Darcy who suggested the backwards guitars. And I was kind of like, I just can't see how backwards guitars can fit into a Great Lakes Swimmer song. And he's like, dude, just trust me. This is going to be awesome. So Jim played the guitar on that, but like we turned the song backwards, and then he played the guitar solo forwards to the backwards track.
Oh my
And then we flipped everything around again, so that it was like,
wild.
So yeah, it was a really neat thing. Just, from a tech and creative standpoint on the actual music, it was like,
I could see that being like a 70s thing to do.
Totally. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And that was one of the moments where I really had to just trust that Darcy knew what he was doing. And I think he did.
This is always the hardest question that I ask artists. But yeah, do you have a favorite performance?
Oh, gosh.
You could have a few if you can't narrow it down to one.
Yeah. Well, we got to headline Massey Hall, I guess about
my favorite venue.
Almost 10 years ago now, I think. And I was so nervous about doing it right, you know what I mean, making sure it was a great kind of performance.
So I felt about this podcast. Ask my husband. I was freaking out all day.
Oh man. I'm easy.
You're my Massey Hall.
I try to be easy to work with. But that was
sorry
a good
to cut off your story.
No, not at all. That was a good one. That was a highlight for sure, because I felt like as a musician, especially having been based in Toronto for all those years, that's kind of like one of the pinnacles, to be able to headline that place felt really good. You know? And I was really, really nervous. I had, but it was like when we got on that stage and we started playing, like everybody played well. I didn't mess up any chords. Like we had rehearsed all week leading up to that. And it was just like a warm bath, on that stage. It's such a beautiful and iconic stage, and I felt we landed a good performance from a technical standpoint, and I think people also liked it too. So that was a real good, memorable one for sure.
Who opened for you?
Well, it was kind of a co-bill. So it was with the Rural Alberta Advantage played before us.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we've seen them a bunch of times. I love them.
They're great.
Yeah. Were they at Wayham when we were there?
I think so.
I feel like, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I would just, I'd love to talk about your tour. We were kind of talking about it, but can you kind of walk us through definitely like the dates that are available that people can come check you out? We were thinking about, when this comes out, it's going to be Sunday, but you guys are doing the Juno Fest, right? This weekend.
Yeah.
We were going to come see it, but it's at 12 o'clock.
I know, it's crazy.
How are you going to stay up?
I don't know. It's way too late for us these days. I'm a dad.
You guys are going to have to take like a nap from 9 to 12.
Oh,
and
gosh. Something. I'm going to have to do something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drink some coffee.
Yeah.
But they've got us on to close out that night. So
amazing.
Yeah. So it's nice to be involved. We've been nominated a few times. We weren't nominated this year, but it was nice to be asked for sure. So we're gonna go down to Hamilton and play. And it's nice that it's in Hamilton this year. There's a lot of great things going on in Hamilton too. It's just, I actually really love just going to shows in Hamilton.
Yeah.
As well. So it'll be nice to play there. And we have an interesting connection to that venue too. Because the venue is called The Underground. It was closed for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
And we have this song on our album Lost Channels called The Chorus in the Underground, which is a song about the band A Northern Chorus. And when we first started out, we used to open for them, or we used to trade shows with them in that venue in the Underground in Hamilton. So The Chorus in the Underground. And then the band broke up and the venue shut down. And at that time I thought like, well, I've got to memorialize this somehow. So it's nice to kind of come full circle now and play this for Juno Fest at the Underground.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I went to lots of plug shows there.
Yeah, totally. It's a quirky little spot.
Yeah.
And it's
great.
But I love it.
Yeah. And then you have another, is the Hamilton show that's April 16th there? Is that kicking off your tour? No, you have something before that.
It's actually tomorrow. We're starting in Kingston tomorrow. I'm leaving for Kingston tomorrow morning. Yeah. And
my gosh.
We're doing 2. We sold out our first show. We added a second show.
Amazing.
So we're doing 2 nights in Kingston, and then and then after that is London, Ontario, which also is sold out. So that's great. And then we're coming back to Hamilton for Juno Fest. Yeah, it's great. It's great that it kind of feels like we're up and running again.
Yeah, people are coming out and giving the love and support. It's amazing.
Sure.
Okay, so that's not even the middle. So Kingston, then London, then Juno Fest.
Yeah.
Then Hamilton? Because that would be like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, so then after that, like after Easter, then we're playing a place up near Stouffville. There's this cool little hall called Harmony Hall. It's in the town of Gormley, which is near Stouffville. It's a really cool space, and we're playing, I think, Cambridge after that at a brewery called Farmley Brewing, which is also sold out, which is great. That's a really great spot. And then I think after that is Toronto, maybe.
Amazing.
So, and Toronto, we're playing with the band, the Deep Dark Woods is opening that one. They're one of my favorite bands. I mean, favorite Canadian bands, but just favorite bands, period,
Amazing.
They're originally from Saskatoon. I think that Ryan from that band lives in Ontario now, but I was really excited to have them on the bill. And then we're playing in Highgate, Ontario, which is heading back west a little bit towards, I want to say it's towards, I think, is it west or is it east actually? Now I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah. And then after that, then we're heading to Ottawa. So we have a great show lined up at the Bronson Center in Ottawa.
Wow.
And Montreal. So we're playing at Let's Go.
Those are all your Canadian dates.
Those are the Canadian, the Ontario and Quebec, and one Quebec date. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you better get your tickets soon because it sounds like it's almost already sold out.
It's like a lot of them. It's great. Like,
yeah, it's
again,
amazing.
Like it's nice that it feels good to be just sort of like running at full steam again, and also this new record too is like people have been really responding to it.
Good.
So
like
it's
I said,
amazing.
I was listening to it at the gym today.
It's awesome. It's
this is a workout music.
What I was going to say is it's just amazing that to do something like that as quickly as we did in 3 days,
right?
And to like just have this approach of warts and all. It just, there's beneath all of those layers, there's, I think, something that feels really real about this one to me.
Yeah.
It's really free from artifice, and it's really the sound of people playing in a room together. We got some video of that we posted online. That's literally of us doing the song, like the actual take of the song being recorded. You know, we got that on video. So it was like, that was a nice thing to share too. We're all wearing headphones because we're all listening to each other. So it's kind of like, but it's like, that was the take. Like that was the actual take that was on the album. I'm not like lip syncing or something.
No.
You know?
That's so great.
Got this very furrowed brow in a couple of scenes because I'm like trying to get the lyrics right and I'm trying not to screw it up, and not aware that there's a camera, you know, on my face. But,
were all the songs for that album written at like in a certain period of time?
Yeah, they were also, that's another thing about that. They were all written together in a very short period of time. Normally I'll you know, spend a lot of time on these things and let them gestate and germinate for like a long period of time.
Also known as procrastinating. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, there's an element of that for sure, but to me it's really
important. Me too
important.
with my house cleaning.
It's
I just spread it out.
Yeah. I can't, sorry dear, I can't wash the dishes today.
I'm trying to marinate it. I'm marinating it.
No, it's about getting the right, you know, really thinking about what you want to say and getting all the words right.
Yeah.
You know, like coming from, like, I love, my favorite thing about this whole career for me is playing with words. I love playing.
Well, yeah, that's your major. Right?
I love playing with words. I like playing music. I know I've done my 10,000 hours on playing open chords, and there's still a lot to learn for me, like technically, musically. But what I really love about the whole thing is just playing with words. So I really try to spend some time to get them the way that I think they should be.
Yeah.
You know, for better or for worse. So.
Yeah, just writing the lyrics. It's so important.
Yeah.
And then, so after the Canadian leg of it, do you want to tell us about your Europe?
Yeah, so
tour? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, we've over 20 years. I
was like, this is my whole bucket list in one. Is it 3 weeks?
It's 4 weeks.
4 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a lot. Yeah, for sure. But this is, I mean, when we first started out, we would tour this way many times a year. You know, we would go away. It's a little bit different now because I'm trying to find more of a family balance, and you know, home life has also become very important to me. So we're not going too crazy with the touring, but this is a particularly substantial run this time around. So, but yeah, we've been lucky to be able to build an audience over the years. That's one place that we've always gone back, is the UK and Europe. And we have a small but mighty following there.
Cool.
Which to me is kind of the sweet spot, to be able to go and play a folk club in a lot of different places in the world and have people show up.
Yeah.
You know, again, we were talking about like, how do you define success? You know, it's like, we're not playing stadiums, we're not playing giant, you know, soft seaters, but we're playing really cool folk clubs around, and it's enough for it to be sustainable. And I love that. You know, for me, that's kind of the sweet spot. So a lot of these places are places that we've been, but a lot of places, there are some new places too. Istanbul and Turkey, a lot of Eastern European, Hungary, Budapest, that kind of thing. We're going up into Scandinavia, playing in. We used to play Sweden a lot. It's been a bunch of years since we've been there, so I'm excited to return to Stockholm and Malmo, Copenhagen, Oslo, Norway. A lot of those kinds of places, and I know we have an audience there too, so it'll be a nice chance to reconnect with people there too, I feel.
Yeah.
Oh,
so excited for you.
Yeah. We're super excited. We're super excited to get over there again, for sure.
Yeah. If people want to check you out online, where can they find you?
Yeah, our website. Yeah, greatlakeswimmers.com is the website. Instagram is kind of another one where I'm fairly active on it. Great_lake_swimmers.
Perfect.
I was pretty late to the game getting on Instagram, but there's a lot of information there too.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right, we're gonna get you to play one more song, but this has been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to chat.
So great to chat. Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to hear all the adventure stories of your tour when you come back. And have a great time.
Thank you. Thanks.
Don't forget to follow us on Spotify, and you'll never miss a podcast.
Shapes was the map, I was lost in it, floating over your rocky spine. The glaciers made you and now you're mine, floating over your rocky spine. The glaciers made you and now you're mine. I was moving across your frozen veneer. The sky was dark, but you were clear. Could you feel my footsteps? And would you shatter, would you shatter, would you? And with your soft fingers between my claws, like purity against resolve, I could tell